Now I want to put forward some prophetic pointers for you so that you can focus on these things, especially the items that I mentioned that bear witness to you, resonate with you. And it's mainly for prayer and intercession. I am not going to pretend that what I'm about to say carries with it the full weight of infallible inspiration, but these prophetic pointers, which I've been sensing, many of them are confirmed by what other prophetic people are saying. So as I look forward into 2023 and seek the face of God, I see a seismic shaking coming into Britain. It's going to touch constitutional matters. It's going to affect some structures in the British society. And there's going to be a way in which the enemy of our souls wants to shake the foundations and shake us free from the foundations of our society, which in many ways have been based on Christian values. So watch out for that and continue to pray. There's also, I believe, a risk of greater fragmentation coming to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. There's mounting pressure from different areas of the United Kingdom for independence, looking for independence from the Union of Nations. And we're going to see pressure for this fragmentation to increase. And we can pray for unity of the United Kingdom and God's people, whatever it means for different nations to experience more freedom and liberty. And we understand how they think about that. But we want to see the United Kingdom remain united in heart and in spirit, even if there is scope for greater freedom for nations moving and looking for independence. Now, I also see some mass protests. Sometimes it will end up in violence. And this is mainly as people are opposing government provisions and what they perceive to be Christian conservative values in legislation and in government policy. There's going to be increased tension politically. We need to pray into that, pray for the safety and security of our nation, and pray for justice to come and for fairness to come into politics, and God will enable us to become much more stable in our government. Also, I think that there's going to be calls for social justice, which will be kind of claimed as justification for ongoing division and disruption in our nation. And I think that all the major political parties will be impacted by this. And that, in my mind, will add to the growing call for new political movements, fresh looks at politics. And some of these initiatives might well be positive and others might be polarizing. And I see the same thing, not just in Britain, but also for Europe and also for North American societies. So that's something we can pray through. I also believe there will be solidifying of existing alignments and the emergence of new alignments in international politics, with new treaties extended to include other nations other than those that are already so aligned. I also believe that wokeness, which is a kind of liberal, progressive, somewhat extreme agenda, that pressure from wokeness will increase pressures for religious pluralism to be impacting our society. I believe it's going to increasingly affect the British monarchy. And I think that signs of this will be present in and surrounding the coronation of King Charles III later this year. I think also there'll be a false social unity being promoted in society, not by consensus, but by imposing somewhat aggressive, liberal and progressive policies and laws. And I think there's going to be increasing opposition to Bible-believing Christians in Britain, Europe, North America. I think there's going to be an increase of audacious attempts to criminalize Bible-believing Christians. And I believe that some are going to be jailed. Already it is happening, but more are going to be jailed for their faith and for their convictions. I think that the issue of abortion, which has recently been highlighted by the reversal of Roe v. Wade, will be a major source for tension, political division, violence, and political activism. Increasingly, those who are pro-life and support the pro-life perspective will be vilified and even criminalized and increasingly removed from social media and other platforms in an attempt to silence them, especially as they speak out boldly on these matters. I think also our denominations are going to be shaken in many ways, and certain Christian denominations in Britain and other places are going to disavow Christians who refuse to compromise with the modern social agenda and the social orthodoxy of today. And some of these denominations will actually call Christians who stand up for biblical and moral values of marriage and family, they'll be labeled as intolerant, fringe element of Christianity. And I think a growing number of denominations are going to capitulate to social pressures in the area of biblical sexual morality and marriage. And I also think there's going to be closing down and silencing of those who post opposing views in line with the woke consensus. That will continue and will increase, but it will be met with a technological rebellion of sorts, which will lead to the establishing of alternative platforms and means of mass communication. And I also believe that some of this pressure will produce a kind of ugly backlash from the extreme right. Now, in all of these times and seasons and some of these prophetic pointers, remember, as Christians, we focus on what God is doing in the world, and we want to line up with his purposes, which is to bring grace, mercy, and salvation to the people of our nations.